Do you attribute that to exhaustion, or do you attribute that to a lack of recovery from the previous night's workout? Is it a combination of those things? Is it exhaustion causing you to misstep, perhaps, and like twist an ankle or turn a knee?
Yeah, it's all of those things.
All those things.
I mean, even if you look at microbalance, if you look at sort of these stability muscles versus, major muscles, those stability muscles also fail when you're not getting sufficient sleep. And I think we often underestimate how critical they are in sport performance, particularly in terms of combating and placating injury risk too. So if you just get someone on a stability ball, and sort of just dose them down with sleep, 8 hours, 5 hours, 3 hours, and just notice how those stability muscles help you balance, just the basic act of balance, that deteriorates dramatically. No wonder you're getting more injury risk.
Totally makes sense. Now, as a neuroscientist, what do you attribute when people talk about visualization? And visualization is it's a huge factor in improving technical skills. Specifically martial arts, which is I'm a big fan of, obviously. Martial arts, when you visualize, people who visualize, who sit down and like go over their body, going through the motions and doing things, those people perform better. They perform better. They learn quicker. What do you attribute that to? Do you think it's the same thing as what's happening when you're sleeping, just maybe to a lesser extent?
I think it's to a lesser extent, but people have done those studies where they've looked at sort of whether you actually physically practice, let's say on a keyboard, just because it's easier to sort of manage in a laboratory, versus just imagining sort of typing out that sequence. And just the act of physical visualization of sort of imagination of that motor skill, it's about 50% as effective as physically performing it too. And it's 50% as effective, what I mean there is, in changing the plastic connections within the brain.
Whoa.
So even just visualization, passive play, as it were, still can actually cause a rewiring of the brain beneficially.
Wow. Learning techniques, specifically martial arts techniques, my good friend Eddie Bravo, who's a world-famous jiu-jitsu instructor, he's always comparing it to tying your shoe. And he said, do you know how, like, when you were a little kid and you're trying to figure out how to tie your shoe, it's an extremely difficult thing to do. You're like, how do I do this? And you put that down and you do loops. Like, I'm watching my 7-year-old daughter go through that right now. But now, as a grown man, when I tie my shoe, I could just be talking, what? Oh, yeah, we're going to go tomorrow. And I'm doing it. I don't even know what I did. If you tried to ask me to explain how I tie my shoe, I'd be like, how do I tie my shoe? Like, I don't even know how I do it, because I have it in there. And the idea with martial arts is you've got to be, all of your techniques have to be automatic. Someone extends the arm, you instantly hook it and go into the arm bar. You have to have these paths like so drilled in that you don't even know you're doing them until it's over.
Yeah. So automaticity is one of the things that sleep actually accomplishes. I was talking about those 20 to 30% benefits in motor skill performance. So we did some additional studies to actually say, well, how does sleep do that? Where in your skill performance does sleep give you the benefit? So you're right, tying a shoelace, even driving a car with stick, at first it's just overwhelming. It's so difficult. It's clutch, it's gas pedal, it's gear. And now it's just second nature. It's shifted from conscious to automatic, from conscious to non-conscious. If you look at performance that is conscious and not automatic, it's usually very staccato. It's this, then it's that, then it's that. It's not fluid. If you heard someone trying to sort of play piano to begin with, it doesn't sound very fluid. As someone who is a maestro, it just flows out of them. So we looked at this with motor skill performance, again, sort of like keyboard playing, musicianship. And you learn and you learn and you get better. And let's say that you type a sequence, let's say 4-1-3-2-4. And people learn it, but they have these problem points throughout the sequence. They go 4-1-3-2-4, 4-1-3-2-4, as if there's this sticking point. It's the same thing with any skilled performance in athletics. And it's the brain chunking things up. A very long motor sequence gets chunked up into small, sort of digestible bites. It's a good way to begin learning. but it's not a way to create automaticity. At some point, what you have to do is stitch all of those things together, and it just flows.
Like a sentence.
Like a sentence, yeah. Like a piano piece. Like, a sequence of movements. If you've got, in martial arts, you've got,
Yeah.
So what we found was that before sleep, you've got these big problem points, these gaps in your motor skill learning. Sleep does not necessarily improve the places where you're already good. Sleep is intelligent. It goes in, finds that problem point, that friction point in your motor skill sort of deficit, and it smooths it out so you come back the next day, and now it's just 4-1-3-2-4, 4-1-3-2-4, 4-1-3. It's automaticity, and it's exactly what you're describing. Speak to musicians, they'll say, I was playing, I just couldn't get that piece the night before, and then I came back the next day and I sat down and I could just play